In today's episode, we are going to talk about how to brand yourself as a real estate agent. To help us with that, we have Luiz and Leticia Aguirre with Social Imprint. They are actually the social media agency that I have used, I'd probably say for the last 2+ years now. So they've actually helped me go from a very little social media following to now a very decent social media following. I think we're at like 300K plus on TikTok. I think over 100 and some on Instagram. And then I believe we have like 9,000 on YouTube. So welcome to the podcast. How are you guys?
Doing great, doing great. Thank you for having us, Luiz.
Awesome. Thank you for having us.
So in today's topic on how to brand yourself as a real estate agent, we are going to talk about like, okay, first of all, what is branding, do's and don'ts about branding. We're going to talk about social media, how you can use social media to brand yourself as an agent. We'll talk about like the process for content creation. There's a couple of different ways of creating content and then how you can actually delegate a large portion of it. We'll talk about how to get the audience engagement, meaning how to get people to want to listen to your message. And then we'll talk about like different analytics, metrics on how to read some of the social media stats, and then just different challenges that are associated with branding. So let's jump right into it. So let's start off in your guys' words. What is branding?
Well, to me, branding essentially is really how you show up. I would say like how you market yourself, how you market your values, your expertise, and really like what makes you stand out from the competition.
What I always say to add to what is personal branding is pretty much we all have opinions, right? But if you don't have one and you're not putting it out there, then you do not have a brand, right? And that's the biggest aspect of personal branding is being an agent who puts out not just your expertise, but what you represent as an agent.
Got it. So basically telling people where you stand and then the right people will follow you, basically, if you do that. So even one of the ways that I've kind of branded myself as a real estate agent, if this is helpful to people, is I have branded myself as somebody who's extremely knowledgeable in real estate. And I've used branding as a way to educate the consumer and almost like provide like free education. My belief as it relates to branding is that if I provide free, good information out there, people will look at me as a resource. And then when they have questions, I'll be the first person that they think about, which will generally lead to them reaching out to me as it relates to any questions that they have as it relates to real estate. So what are some examples of people that you guys see have good brands and what makes them a good brand? And then what are some examples of people that maybe don't have a good brand? And we don't have to mention any names either, but maybe just examples of like don'ts or do's as it relates to branding.
So no name drops, right? But in reality, we see a lot of agents trying a lot of different things. And I think, in the real estate industry, everyone is trying to stand out. Some are doing things that are almost extreme and it's going well for them. And then we all have people on the other side that are almost trying to replicate it, but it's not them, if that makes sense. So to give you a better idea, it's like finding something that is you. It's like you were mentioning, understanding who you are helps your brand reflect authentically. So as an agent, it's pretty much becoming an expert in an area or something, and then of course adding a twist, which is your personality, your branding, the branding elements, everything that makes it more unique. But to kind of give you an idea, I think a lot of agents see the guy that raps. He's a realtor who raps. I'm not sure his name. I was trying to look him up before this podcast, but I didn't get to. But anyway, I think he's doing a great thing as branding himself as that agent. It's just knowing how far you're going to go into your branding that it's not going to push away from the point of what you're trying to do, right? So as realtors, not going too extreme to the point where we're becoming influencers and not serving the people.
To kind of piggyback off of that, you asked for like some examples of good branding. I think two people that comes to the top of my head is really like Alex Hormozi and Ryan Pineda. So when you look at Alex Hormozi, his branding is really gym clothes, tank top. I'm going to go out. I'm going to say what I think, whether people like it or not. This is, like Letty said earlier, my opinion. Ryan Pineda is somebody who comes off as somebody who has a different hair color every time he goes into a podcast or something, you know? And that is kind of like what's distinguishing them. But then if you, Jose Luis, you go out and you start wearing a tank top and shorts and getting on these podcasts, it's not really going to come off the same because that's not who you are.
Because I don't have a six pack. Are you talking about? I'm just kidding.
No.
No, it's funny because I went to Ryan Pineda's studio one time. One of the assistants for Ryan was walking us around. He's like, for some reason, your voice seems really recognizable. It's like your voice. I recognize that voice. I know I've heard it. And he's like, are you Jose Luis? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, to be quite honest, he's like, I almost didn't really pick it up because you weren't in your suit, basically, and a lot of times, like sometimes people recognize the suit and see that. But what I was going to say as it relates to branding as well, too, is like knowing who your audience is and who you're trying to target as well, too. So like, for example, like somebody like me, like whenever I'm educating people, I think that attracts people looking to buy or sell or people with questions, as opposed to like, for example, the rapping realtor. I think his avatar is a little bit different. I don't think he's really trying to attract buyers and sellers. I think he's trying to attract agents, which is good. He knows his audience and he knows who he's attracting. So I think part of that branding process is like, okay, what do you stand for? And then also like, who is your client as well too? And how can you create content in a way that attracts that potential avatar or that potential client as well too?
No, yeah, that was definitely well said because it's exactly that. It's like first understanding your objectives with social media, right? When we think of realtors, we sometimes fall into the trap of thinking they're just looking for leads, right? Buyers, sellers. But in reality, social media is so powerful that people are using it for everything, for growing their business specifically, but also for branching out. And like you're saying, agent attraction is so big. So understanding who your ideal audience is, pretty much that's where you understand where you can create content out of that to attract them and then obviously convert them. Truthfully, yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny because even like for the audience that I'm targeting as well too, like if I came on here with a tank top, even if I'm really, really knowledgeable or really educated, some people may not take me as seriously as they would in a suit, obviously in the industry that I'm in. So let's transition into the social media. So I actually believe that social media has eliminated a lot of the barriers that you would have had 10 years ago. Like 10 years ago, if you wanted to build a brand or you wanted to build basically become almost like a celebrity, you would have had to either have a TV show, you would have had to have paid a lot of money to be on radio or a lot of money in advertising. Now with social media, it's almost like leveled off the field to make it so that anybody can have a pretty large following. What are your guys' thoughts on social media? And then also, what are you guys' thoughts on branding on social media? And are there any different ways that agents can brand themselves outside of social media, or is that like the best option for them to brand themselves as well?
When it comes to social media, kind of what I see is like it's giving you, like you mentioned earlier, the open door to show up in front of thousands of people, not just a billboard where people who only live in Ventura County, in your example, are going to see, right? But it's more showing your expertise, like Letty said earlier, showing your opinion, kind of trying to connect with people in a different way than you could through sending mail, through putting yourself on a billboard, through putting yourself on a bus stop, things like that.
I would add that it's social media pretty much has exactly leveled the field to everyone and anyone who's willing to put in the effort, consistency on there, right? People are building, going from not having jobs, not having anything going for them to building careers on social media. That's what it's doing for people. So it's like as agents in the industry of real estate, using that to amplify and grow your business is super powerful, right? And obviously having a team behind you to push it and actually get there at scale is pretty much what makes all the difference. Social media is like making wave for not just newcomers, but the businesses that are here, right? The businesses that are exploding in every industry, they're all on social media and they're all trying to adapt with social media. So it's just as an agent seeing that marketing has always been an aspect of your business. It's just the different types of marketing that are now being more effective. And social media is one of them. Platforms like TikTok really pushed, not to say a decline, but we're definitely seeing with the possibility of TikTok ending, right, in January of 2025, a lot of people are going to move to YouTube. So YouTube is going to explode. those like brand, people who want to build a personal brand, that's where all their loyal followers are going to go because they want to learn and kind of connect with you in a more deeper level, right? It's just so powerful. Anyone who's not taking advantage of this time and this wave is really just missing out.
What I was going to say is I also feel like social media, there's like a window of opportunity. I feel that as people grow their careers on social media and social media continues to do great things for individuals and companies, I feel like over time it's going to become more and more competitive, and meaning that the quality of the content's going to have to improve. When I first started on social media, I mean, like the content and the quality was good, but I feel like as time progresses, that's going to be like the minimum standard, and then the minimum standard is going to continue increasing, where on YouTube eventually the quality of the content might be almost like a Netflix series, like where people have to produce at that level of quality to basically get people to watch that content. So I do feel like there's a window of opportunity for people that are interested in growing in that. Let's talk about like content creation. How can somebody get ideas as it relates to creating content? What type of content should people be creating? And then also, like, what role should they be doing in that content creation? Should they be doing it all themselves? Should they be delegating? What are your guys' thoughts?
So what I would say when it comes to content creation and looking for ideas, etc., a lot of information is out there. So it's really knowing your ideal audience and what you're trying to do, the intention behind the creation. We're very big on making sure each post has an intention. So is it to educate? Is it to inspire? Is it to promote? All these things fall into content creation, and you have to have those established before you go looking for ideas. And ideas are found everywhere, right? TikTok has literally keywords you could just look up to search what are the top videos relating to this specific niche that are working, that are getting put in front of your ideal audience. Look at that as inspo, take from that and then recreate it in your own way or give it your own twist. A big thing with trends is trends go viral, as we know, but it's applying your niche to it.
It's funny because I would look at videos with the intention of, okay, how can I recreate this video to my industry, make it specifically for our industry? So I remember there was a video that I did very early on where somebody did a video, like they did something that their wife didn't approve, and they basically had a pillow outside and they were like sleeping outside of the door. And I made a funny video like that, just basically saying, when my Latina wife finds out I only closed 2 escrows this month, or I only closed 5 escrows this month. But it was like a video that wasn't related to my industry, and I basically made it related to actually real estate. So I think it's just looking at the videos and be like, okay, is there any spin that I can give to this video to make it real estate related, even if it's not your video? And that's the great thing about social media, because that's where your creativity can come into play. That's where you can give something your own spin and make it your own as well too. So that's what I think about when I think about content creation, is as you're consuming content, consuming it with an intention of, hey, is there anything I can do to recreate this and make it custom tailored to what we're doing here?
That you just mentioned, I think, is the most important thing. Is as you're consuming media, the things that you're seeing that are working for other people, how can you create that right into your own niche, with like you just did with the pillow video? I think another way that, right, you had asked, how can you look for ideas and stuff like that. I also think, like Letty mentioned, SEO is very big, search engine optimization, for those for in your audience who don't know exactly what it is, right? And right now, Instagram is shifting how people search things because they want to compete with TikTok, because right now it's Google, YouTube, and then TikTok as search engines. So really, when you go into Instagram, you can put like real estate social media marketing, and you can select the reel section, and you're gonna see how many views each video has. You're gonna see what people are talking about. You're gonna see what it is that's popping right now in your niche. But the important thing, as you mentioned, is really to make it your own. Don't just try to copy paste, which I think is one of the biggest mistakes people make, is really copy pasting everything that they're doing, because it comes off not as you. And like we mentioned earlier, the biggest thing in personal branding is being yourself, is having your own opinion, is doing things differently. So I kind of wanted to add that to that.
Yeah. No, I agree with it. Now, as it relates to content creation, I think sometimes people get not over. There's a book called The E Myth, and in that book, it explains how people try to do it all themselves instead of like delegating a lot of different things. Like, it's funny because when I started real estate, I actually did a lot of it myself. Now, obviously, we delegate a lot of it. But when I started social media, I was like, I am not going to do that. I am not going to be the one basically posting or coming up with the trends or just following all the latest analytics. And you guys have actually been really good at like making adjustments as it relates to that. I've seen it in the content where you guys make adjustments, where you guys notice something, you're like, oh, this would be good for them to do. So should somebody be doing all of it, or what is required if somebody, I mean, if you don't have the capital, then obviously you have to do all of it. But if not, you can hire an agency. But wait, let me go in between. What if you didn't have the money for an agency? Are there tools out there that can help you basically create some of the content to make it less labor intensive for somebody that's maybe working their way up to hiring a company like your guys'?
100%. And I would say, especially nowadays with the AI tools that we have, it's not necessarily take these tools and let it do it all for you. Because people who use AI, you see, like you kind of do need to modify the things. But for example, ChatGPT is a huge tool right now that you could use. And you could literally tell ChatGPT, like, hey, I have this audience. This is the niche that I'm in. This is the result that I'm trying to get. Help me come up with some ideas, and kind of piggybacking off of those ideas that it gives you. And then the second tool I would say is most important, and I'll let Letty add if she has anything, is really a scheduling tool, right? Facebook gives you one with Business Meta. You can use Metricool, which is what we like to use in house. And these things let you schedule things before time. So that way you're not every day just trying to post. Because as you said, more and more competitors are going to get into this field. And this is like a full-time job. And that's exactly why we do what we do, which is pretty much try and take all of the time consuming part from social media off of your shoulders. Because I'm sure that you, Jose Luis, do not have time to be chopping up, editing, thinking of keywords, captions, hashtags, all those things. Am I wrong?
No, and it was funny because when I tried doing it on my own, I was very lazy about it. Meaning, like, I wouldn't like put the hashtags, I wouldn't research anything. Like, even now, like, I'll post a video or two myself, and I'll just basically post
Post
it,
it.
without like any research or anything like that.
I say for the audience, they know when Jose Luis posts on his own because it's a straight raw video. We love it though. It's just out there. But I would definitely add that when it comes to, let's say, people don't have a budget, right? And that's the reality of some people. They're not willing or ready to invest into, to outsource their social media and etc. But at the end of the day, it's deciding. If you know social media marketing is crucial and you really want to do it, it's pretty much building out a calendar for yourself, getting used to filming the behind the scenes of what you do when you sell homes, processes. It's really being comfortable in front of the camera, because more than creation, right? We have Canva out there, so I believe a lot of agents know making branded posts, just listed, just sold. That's great. But honestly, what's going to get you to a place of reaching the masses is video content. So it's getting comfortable with being on camera. And that's just from there. Even if you don't have all the fancy editing and stuff, learn to go to Instagram, add captions to your videos. It does it for you. It's not going to be the quality, or how do I say, it's not going to present you as, let's say, that agent that you want to be, but it's a good start. And then, of course, free. Instagram has scheduling on there on its own. Luis, like mentioned, we use Metricool. That's also great for scheduling posts.
Yeah, 100% on that. I concur with that 100%. So let me ask you this, like, what if somebody needed help? Like, obviously one of the tools you guys mentioned was for posting. What about for editing videos? What are some of the tools that people can use for editing videos? What are some of the, aside from ChatGPT, what are some of the tools that people can use with AI as well too?
I think biggest when it comes to editing itself is CapCut. CapCut, it was bought by TikTok, but CapCut is really, really keen on adding AI. So CapCut helps you, for example, fix your eyesight. If you're not looking straight at the camera, it'll make it so you're looking straight at the camera. It helps you comes up with captions. It helps you come up with different type of B-rolls that you can put in the back, and all of those things kind of, it facilitates the editing for you, so you don't have to spend too much time on it. That to me, I would say is the biggest one, but it's really making sure that you have an eye on what you want your content to look like. Because when you do use all of this AI, it's going to put it out how it thinks it should be put out. It's going to put different font. It's going to put different colors. It's going to, like change things up. So it's really just making sure like when you are using those types of tools for AI that you're understanding what your vision is for your page overall and how you want to be seen. Because though it does the job for you, it's not necessarily something that you should just 100% use post as soon as you take it out.
Awesome. I love it. So let's talk about like engagement. And this was funny because I didn't think about this until I started producing content. But in order for somebody to want to consume your content, you have to get their attention. If you do not get their attention in the first 3 seconds or even like 1 second, think about how fast when you're scrolling, it's just like, oh, no, oh, no, oh, wait, what's that? And then, oh, no, oh, no. That's literally how long you have to get somebody's attention. So what are some of the ways to get an audience attention at the very beginning of a video?
It's great that you mentioned that, the 3 second like scroll or stop, because it's exactly that. People's attention spans have shortened thanks to TikTok. So it's even harder to keep people on your video, right? And the biggest thing that we're seeing is working on social media is having not just text hook, but it's also having a visual hook. And that means everything from how you start your video to what you say, and then how quickly you get into the actual value that you're trying to put out. It may seem, how do I say, exhausting because social media moves quick, it's ever changing, but that's really what we see in videos is helping. It's being creative. That's where you have to put effort into content. It's not stating your name every time you start a video and getting into the good stuff, which is what people want. People want you to provide them the solution you're promising at the beginning. People want you to provide the advice, or people want a good story. Storytelling is huge in content. So again, and then of course, having a team that can restructure, reframe if needed is probably the best part. Because again, how we consume content has changed dramatically. No one wants to sit and hear back. You need to talk to the viewer as if they were right in front of you, right? People want real conversation like content.
Like, and just to add on to that, like Letty mentioned visual hooks. I feel like to me in the last, I would say 3 to 6 months, that's been like the biggest change that we started to see in social media. Because before you could just be like, hey, 3 tips before buying a home, right? Like now we saw a video the other day where it's like this guy was doing a property tour, but the way they started their property tour was somebody pushing him into a pool. And then he never touched the pool. He just went reverse and it showed the whole house in reverse. And then they did the property tour. And it's like that visual hook is really important nowadays. I don't know if you've seen, but it's like there's people that are like jumping off of a bridge and then all of a sudden they get into a property tour, or they're about to get hit by a bus. And then all of a sudden it's like they're talking about 3 tips too. And it's really that creativity now, because as you mentioned, there's so much competition and everybody's doing the same 3 ways to do this or 5 tips before this, that's just not enough anymore. You need to like give a little bit more to the people.
Yeah, it's evolving. It's getting better.
For the people to know what Luis just mentioned, again, that's the extreme side of how creative you want to get. Again, if you're not willing, then you can just see from the audience. But that's subtle foreshadowing. People literally have lost the ability to stay till the end. That people are giving you like a glimpse of what the end will be just to keep you now to get to the end. It's insane, and it's called subtle foreshadowing. And it's a recent thing that I believe, I don't know if it started on TikTok, but a lot of trends that happen over there make its way to Instagram, and then that's where we see every industry really applying their niche to it.
It's awesome because when I started off in social media, I read a book called Hook Point. It was by Dane Cook or something like that, and what it talked about is how you have to get people's attentions in the first 3 seconds, and then it'll be 2 seconds, and then it'll be 1. And everything that you guys are talking about was stuff that we implemented. It was like text, cars. Some people have good-looking women around them the entire time, and they use them as hooks as well too. So a lot of different things that you can use as hooks. Hooks not only what comes out of your mouth; it's also like your background as well too. So all of that plays a role. So let's talk about like analytics and like metrics. So and this is probably something that I'm not very good at. I rarely go into the analytics, but this is something I'm sure that you guys are doing and kind of watching for certain things. What analytics and metrics should people be looking at when managing their own social media profiles?
Right now, I would say the most important analytic to look at is watch time. Really, well, I'll name the other three now, but really what Instagram is looking at is like how long are people watching this video? Because if people are watching your video all the way until the end, then it's something that's worth pushing out onto other people, right? So when you're looking at your metrics and your analytics, I would say watch time, engagement, and shares. Shares is one of the most important things right now, and this came up in an interview with Instagram CEO not too long ago, where really what the algorithm is feeding off now is how many people are sharing your content. Because if Jose Luis is seeing something that he thinks is worthy for Letty to
Shareable.
see, then Letty's going to send it to Luis, and it's shareable content that they know will keep going around. So that right now is the most important thing, apart from engagement. And when I mention engagement, is a lot more than just replying with like a thumbs up emoji. It's like you really have to build that connection with the audience, right? It's like showing the audience that you really care about what they're saying. So if they say something and you just put up a thumbs up, it's very different than them saying something and you commenting
Replying.
something that gives them even more value, right?
I would definitely add where Luis is saying is the shares. I think that's pretty much the biggest one because it's telling people that what you're putting out needs to be seen by others or it's relatable enough that it'll resonate with another person. And that's the biggest thing. It's like making content with the thought in mind, who can this serve? Not what I can get, but who can this serve? Right? That type of, having that mindset when you're building content will only amplify exactly your engagement, the people who follow you, and it's just like a ripple effect. But you have to go in with the giving mindset.
So let's say somebody was considering getting into social media or starting social media or even starting their brand. What would be some tips for them as it relates to strategy, as it relates to like just preparing for entering this journey?
Oof. Well, first, preparing preparing yourself to understand. I say this all the time that social media isn't a sprint, it's a marathon. And if you're going in, it's going to be an investment, whether it's time, money, effort. You're going to have to put in work in order to see results. And I think that's like with everything in life. But sometimes people, social media seems almost easy for those people that have big numbers. People like yourself, it looks like it was overnight, but it wasn't, right? It was years of work, adapting, investing, and trying. So it's really, if you're really serious about going into social media and building your personal brand, first you have to understand who you are, what's going to be your main mission with social media. And then, of course, if you want to go the right way, I would say outsourcing people who are in the creative field to help you to structure everything for you so it doesn't take away time from your business. So that's with the type of content you put out, how the content looks, and then, of course, realizing of it's taking too much time of you, buy yourself some time and go with an agency that fits you, like Social Imprint, in order to scale your content. Because truthfully, I believe quality over quantity, but quality quantity changes the game. And that's only possible with a team.
Imagine you having to edit your videos, captions, do all this, post it. Like, how much time of your day do you think that would take? And do you think that's time that you could be using calling other people, making relationships, closing deals?
Yeah, I would say, and that's why I do it with you guys because I could spend my time like following up on the leads or doing income producing activities or just producing more quality content. So let's say that somebody was going to hire a social media company, which I did before you guys as well too. What should somebody look for when doing that?
I would say the most important thing to look for is really making sure that there's going to be a strategy behind everything. And the reason I say this is I have a lot of sales calls where they kind of compare what I'm offering to what other people offer. And really what other people are offering are just like still images, just sold, just listed. And while that's okay for you to have on your page because it shows people that you're producing, it shouldn't be the only thing because when people go onto your page, they want to see you. They want to be able to connect with you, and just having all this just listed, just sold kind of shows them like, oh, I'm just going to be sold again.
So I would say when looking to, outsource and leverage your social media, it's making sure you're working with a team who fits you. right? Because it's not just a handover, it's a collaboration. So if you're not willing to communicate with the team that's, trying to get you to where you could be, it's not going to work. So understanding it is going to take collaboration and communication, but once the strategy and branding and everything's in place, you're on a good start. So it's just finding an agency that understands you. You feel like they understand your vision. And of course, at the end, that stand somewhat with your core values, right? You don't want to work with people who are selling you a fake dream, which is like buying followers or, boosting posts every here and there. That's not really a long-term strategy, and you shouldn't fall for those agencies trying to sell you that.
Sorry, may I ask you, hostilities, like how much time do you take in maybe reviewing content, looking over things? Like we talked about how long it can take to edit, to make captions fall out. Like how long do you really put into this because of the work that we put in?
I have a zero. I literally have it set up where even like a podcast like this, I'll record it on iris.fm. You guys have access to that account. You guys will download it. You guys will edit it. You guys will publish it out. I literally only track after it gets put out. Occasionally, I make certain suggestions, but very rarely. Like the amount of time that and that's ultimately what I like about it. That it's very simple. Even we started doing some new videos on iris.fm. They're on there where one of the tedious things was if I didn't use iris.fm, I would have to download the video, then upload it to the cloud, then send it to you guys. Now with iris.fm, I don't even have to do that, which makes it very simple. I shot 3 videos yesterday, each 13 minutes, and it was just like so easy to be able to do it with this. So I would say that the most important thing that I would recommend people look for in an agency is just results. And I know that you guys have delivered that. I know that you guys have obviously helped me get to a certain amount of following. I know one of your other clients is Aaron Novello. I know that you guys have helped him get to a certain amount of following. We even had a friendly competition at some point as well, too, where we were kind of trying to see who was going to grow faster or with more. So I would say that would be an important metric to look at, is just results as well, too, that somebody's actually helping you drive either numbers. It was funny because there was a time where it was somebody from your team that reached out to me like, "Congratulations, Joseluiz." I'm like, "What's up?" He's like, "You have a video blowing up on social media," and I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Yeah, you got a video with like 2 million views right now on social," and I'm like, "Bro, I've been logged out for the last week. I haven't even been on social in the last week. I just like literally logged out of my account." And it was just funny because I wasn't even logged in, and there was like this video blowing up that in the end it ended up getting 8 million views, but I wasn't even, it was like a week and I'm just going about my day like normal. So it was just pretty funny how that happened as well too.
No, that's definitely there, like you're mentioning. It's because of the trust built, right?
Yeah.
Not every person who starts with us will give us that like freeway and of access to not have to review. And that's not what we encourage at the beginning. We want feedback. We want to make sure what we're creating for you aligns with your vision and your brand. But definitely as we grow, letting go more because you trust the people you're working with makes all the difference in the world. And thankfully we've been able to, have the relationship with you, and it's been great, and we're still on a journey to keep growing, and that's our biggest thing. We stay on top of everything so you can continue to, produce and be the best in your industry, while we make sure your online presence is growing and also growing, helping your business become more credible.
I agree. Cool. So if somebody wanted to get in touch with your guys' company, how would they go about doing that?
You could definitely follow us on Instagram at Social Imprint Agency. We also have our website. It's social-imprint.com. On there, you can go ahead and contact us. You can see some case studies and more about us and all of that.
Awesome, guys. Okay, cool. Well, I want to say thank you guys for taking the time to be on the show. I appreciate, obviously, everything that you guys do for our company. For our viewers out there, we had Luis Paoli and Leticia Aguirre with Social Imprint. We talked about how to brand yourself as a real estate agent. We hope that this video was helpful. If it was, hit the share button, share it with a friend. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Thank you, guys, and thank you, Leticia and Luis.